All right, good afternoon, everybody. What's up, Colin? Hope you're having a good day so far.
Yeah, pretty good
Oh,
day.
cool. Well, yeah, we're gonna talk golf today. For those of you that have not been here for the past week, it's a little bit new information. Colin's basically on a 2 week trial basis here. I've been joking with him. He's eager to talk golf. We're not branding. I had a nice subscriber remind me, to not use the word expert because that's the last thing we're trying to do. So Colin's not on here as some sort of golf savant where all the time he's betting and winning. It's more so I really think Colin's going to be able to add value as far as his knowledge of golf with his background, and as far as the bets go. As I've been saying, it's a black and white business. You either win or you lose. We'll be honest about how things go for this weekend. I know last weekend didn't end up exactly the way you wanted, and it is what it is. But we'll see how you do for this weekend. And then more importantly, you get judged on the Masters because I know everybody wants a bet. They want to do maybe a DraftKings style where you're picking a bunch of people. So there's a lot of different things. We'll get into all of it. But for now, I'd like to spend a couple of minutes because I'm educating myself on golf. Obviously, there's two tours. We got the PGA Tour, we got the Live Tour. PGA Tour goes Thursday through Sunday. I knew that much. So that's why we're doing the pods on Wednesday. So that way you'll have your picks out before the tournament starts. And then Live is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? So they do 3 rounds, and you'll have your picks out for the Live. Which tournament is the Live one this weekend again?
Miami.
Miami. So you'll have your picks either later tonight or at least by tomorrow, as that tournament starts on Friday. So with
Yep.
that being said, before we kind of get into the Valero Open and you give me your spiel about it and tell me unique things about the Valero Open and who you think is going to win, why don't we do a little bit of an overview? If there's some odds, I don't know if people like making future bets because the champion the tour just started. There's only been what was it last week, the first round, the first leg of the PGA Tour, or was that the second one?
So, meaning like the season so far?
Right.
No, so the season's been underway since like January.
Okay.
Uh,
No, there we go. I'm off to a great start. Regardless, there's some future bets. Wonderful. So there's some future bets to make. Slash, I wanted to kind of just get an overview of the top guys in golf, some guys that maybe are under the radar. So if you don't mind, go ahead for a few minutes. And you talked a lot about Scheffler last week. Who are some other golfers as we head into the Masters, whether they're playing in this tournament or not, that aren't getting as much of attention? That maybe we will be talking about more as the summer goes on.
so I guess right now, I mean, names that you're looking for that are going to kind of keep trending is what you're asking, more or less.
Yep.
So, I mean, because they're probably people. That's always what we were talking about last week too. Is this is kind of the start of the busy part of the season with major season starting with next week being the Masters. So litmus test is always what gets kind of kicked around as people are kind of maybe not picking people to win outright this week, but want them to finish top 10, top 20. There's a couple guys that I'm like thinking of that nature being like Colin Morikawa. Um, Played well to start the season, kind of struggled a little bit going in the last couple weeks at the players and stuff, but the course sets up well for him, just being accurate off the tee. And mainly his only knock is his putter right now. So if he gets putting better, that's a name you're probably going to see going in the right direction this weekend and even at the Masters. Matthew Fitzpatrick's another guy too that I think about. He's somebody that again is not won this year yet, but he's been playing well. It's definitely somebody that I think suits this course well. Maybe not so much next week at the Masters so much, but this week I think he's a good
Is
fit
there
for the course
anybody
itself.
that is there anybody that's not playing this weekend that will be playing at the Masters that you find it odd that they're not playing, or it makes you then down on them going into the Masters?
Yeah, actually, because I know last week Scotty Scheffler played, so that's if somebody doesn't play both weeks leading up, because it's kind of weird. Normally, you're going to play one of those events either 2 weeks before or this week, where it's the week ahead. Patrick Cantlay is somebody who's like top 10 in the world right now and is not playing this week. He did not play last week, and it's kind of weird just because he's a top 10 player right now, and his putting is probably again one of the best putters on tour. So it's just kind of weird that he's not playing, and I'm kind of curious where his odds go this week again into the Masters. I probably won't pick him because that's definitely something with recent form. I'm always kind of big on that. Not that it's always a key that somebody's going to win 2 weeks in a row, but it's top 10, top 20. As long as you're placing towards the top and you're trending is always a big thing going into the majors.
So, what do you think of this particular tournament? You mentioned that the gentleman Fitzpatrick, this tournament fits, this course fits his style. The Valero Open, where are you looking? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel confident about some of the odds? Are you looking at top 10 finishes? Do you have more of a hunch on who's going to win? What are some of the bets that have jumped out at you?
So this week's kind of weird because it's last week we were talking about Scotty Scheffler being such a strong favorite, and he was right there at the end. This week's now a little bit opposite, where there's more, I would say, more competition, but the odds favorite this week is Rory. Rory's a big name in golf. Um, he's never won here, but I don't know if it's something I would pick him to win. He's probably obviously always a safe top 10, top 20, but I mean, for me, there's no value on that. That's the main thing is if you're taking him anything other than to win, there's not a whole lot of value. So,
What about this bet for Rory as your, because I pulled up all the different bets that you could make so I can understand like how do we attack this, right? Because to be, just brutally honest, I don't have the attention span for golf to get into the weeds of it. I have to figure out how do I make money off of it. Like if I can't make money off of it, when it comes to sports betting, it's not relevant. And I assume that's how most people are feeling that are listening. So as soon as you said McIlroy, at least and I'm sure and this is the other thing, shop around for the odds. We talk about that all the time. Like find the best odds you can. So one of the things I found with McIlroy is does he finish 14th or better? And that was even odds. So it was minus 110 that he's in 14th or better or 15th or worse. So does that almost feels like a sucker bet that he finishes in the top 15? Am I reading that the right way? What are your thoughts? If you had to bet a few bucks on that, would you bet him to finish in the top 15 or not?
honestly, no. I don't know if he goes top 15 this week. Top 20 is probably a safer, but there's not a ton of value there. I was reading this morning that he's actually working with a new swing coach like basically this week right now, going into the Masters. But it's like the most famous coach of all time right now, Butch Harmon, who's worked with like Tiger, most recently Ricky Fowler. He brought Ricky Fowler back from the dead last year. Ricky hadn't won in forever. So I'm like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, to me, it's a bad thing that you're looking at your swing this close going into a major when you're already playing great golf, if not some of the best golf recently in the last couple of years for him. So I don't know.
A little bit of red
I
flag.
almost don't want him to play well because Rory, there's a lot of stuff going on with Rory in terms of like if he wins the Masters next week, it would be the biggest thing that's happened in golf since anything that's Tiger's done because Rory's got every major except the Masters, which is what's called the Grand Slam. So getting the Grand Slam is just like tennis. It's something that it's very hard to do this generation with the amount of talent. So it's like I don't even know if I want Rory to play well this week, and knowing if he plays well, he won't play well next week, type of thing.
So it'll be interesting to see as we go along. Like, all right, how do we, like I said, how do we find value? So in the McElroy situation, to me, that's like a stay away, just based on what you said. I'm trying
Yeah,
to after you finish kind of talking about what you're saying, I'm gonna decode that and say, all right, well, you know what? That doesn't seem like great value. Who knows exactly why he's trying to work with a different swing coach? The guy you mentioned. So as soon as you said Fitzpatrick, started figuring out where can we get value with him. What I see is 27th or better. Does that jump out at you as easy money? So it looks like that's 50%. Again, 50-50 minus 110. The juice is the same. That what's Fitzpatrick's first name? Matt Fitzpatrick.
yep.
Finishes 27th or better. You like him a lot. Why are the odds so high, frankly, for him to finish only 27? Does that seem like good value to you?
Yeah, I mean this course is long and he's long and accurate off the tee. He's like one of the best in terms of like driver statistics. If you go through that, he's really good. He's really analytical. He definitely approaches the game, I think. Very different in this generation that he literally every single swing that he makes in tournament practice, everything, he records everything, distance, where it went, all that stuff. So he's like a walking just like computer in terms of all the data that he has himself with his caddy. So
So
He's
what's the
just somebody that I
devil?
always look at always with the course if it sets up if there's good value on him. It's like he
What's the
just
devil's advocate? Why the other way? Why odds at 27th? What is there a chance he just doesn't make the cut and he sucks tomorrow? Is that why the odds are that way?
yeah, they could be that way. But I don't know all year if he's maybe missed one cut. I mean, he's been consistently, I want to say, playing well in the signature events, the big events, which not necessarily this is considered a signature event, but it's still an important event, I guess. Again, going
When
up to a
I
major. So
when I say the odds were set at 27th, your first instinct is like, wow, you thought it would be a lot lower than that?
yeah, I would or higher, I should say. I thought it would have been like closer to like 20, somewhere in
Right.
that
That's what
range.
I mean. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a whenever
like
you're
the
doing
20,
lower, I was gonna say
lower, higher.
that's like it's like the never ending. If you're not on the same page, it's like, wait, what are you talking about? I thought you meant higher. So yeah, better. We should say these are good odds, like what you're saying, and that's because going into the Masters, the way where I'm going to advise people to bet on golf is to simplify it, right? Find the golfer that you think is going to do poorly or do well, and then figure out what bets make the most sense. So Fitzpatrick, yeah, you can bet on him to win the whole thing, and I can look up the odds, but they're probably going to be super, whatever. It's a long shot for him to actually win the tournament. But if you think he's going to play well, if Colin pushed you to do an extra 10, 15 minutes of research and you feel the same way, then it looks like the best bet for him would be either to finish in the top 10, where you get really good odds for that, or just simply bet the even money that he finishes better than 27. So, all right,
Yep.
that's one thing. There's another bet that pops up. So these are probably I would say the most entertaining bets just from the afar because from afar I've never made a golf bet. I think I've done trying to remember what year it was, but I did a long time ago. I guess when DraftKings probably first came out, I was guilty of making those lineups, thinking maybe one day I'll win a gazillion dollars. Gave up on it real fast because of basketball because I kept getting angry that my buddies who knew less about basketball kept doing better in DraftKings. Because I'm like, I don't understand, I guess, the value here, whatever. So I gave up on it. And I remember doing a couple golf tournaments just because it's fun, where they give you a salary cap and you just pick whatever, right? 10, however many golfers it is, and whoever. So, anyway, with that being said, those are long shots. But if you want to bet 500 bucks, 1,000 bucks, more or less, somewhere in that range, and you're like, well, how do I find value? To me, you pick the golfers heads up. So McIlroy versus they have, and this is just what I'm looking at. You can probably find more odds depending on again what apps you're using. But right in front of me, McIlroy, and you mentioned the Morikawa guy, Colin Morikawa. Is that how you say his name? So if they're
Yep.
playing heads up, the odds I'm looking at is whoever finishes better, right? By the end of the tournament, very simple. Whoever has a better score at the end of the tournament wins. And if you want to bet McIlroy, it's minus 195, but Morikawa is plus 142. Does that scream value to you or eh?
That's a tricky one. I would say that's kind of like on the fence. I mean, me, I would bet it. I don't know how much I would bet. Probably $50 on Morikawa, just because, like I said, there's maybe some more value there. Because if you're going to bet, and want to win the same amount of money on Rory, you got to almost go double on that. So it's like, and that's new swing coach, or if he's working with somebody new this week and he's on the fence if he's not feeling good about his swing, or I have no idea what they're truly working on. But that's something like to me with those odds, I'm surprised they're not actually, I guess, more like minus 150 Rory, not minus almost 200 basically.
What about the guy Corey Connors? Because that's the guy they have matched up with Matt Fitzpatrick. Would you feel comfortable that Fitzpatrick beats Connors? What's the read on him?
So Corey Connors actually is somebody, he's won this event twice. He actually won it last year.
Hmm.
Um, and he's got a lot of like good history here. Like a lot of people, I think, are picking him for a top 10 pick, top 10 finish. Um, so that's a tricky one right there. Actually that's a good head to head. I'm assuming is Fitzpatrick the plus odds on that.
No, it's actually pretty even. That's why it jumped out. It was 50-50, minus 110 on each of them.
Oh, really? Okay, that's not. Yeah.
Most of most of the odds I'm looking at, and the way they set it up, because remember the sports books don't want to get killed, so they don't usually put McElroy versus somebody where it could be like plus 800. That's not what
Yep.
they're at. So a lot of the matchups are fairly 50-50. The McElroy jumped out at me because that was the highest one, and then just because those were the first two golfers that you mentioned when I said, "Hey, floor's yours," I figured, all right, let me see what kind of odds I can find there. Let me run through the first. So this is interesting to me. Maybe you can shed some light on this. I'm going to run through the first five, six guys that are favored to win the Valero Open, and then maybe from a betting standpoint, you can help me understand this. So McIlroy is plus 925. Ludwig Aberg is plus 1150. Spieth is plus 2100. Hideki Matsuyama plus 24. Connors plus 27. And then Fitzpatrick's at plus 28. Plus 2,800 meaning. So if you're betting $100 on Fitzpatrick, you're getting back 2,800. Is there, so if I'm gambling on golf and, I'm not paying attention, let me rephrase this. I'm betting on golf before the tournament starts, right? So I really don't know exactly what's going to happen, and I see the odds are this high to take Fitzpatrick at 28-1, but yet he's projected, if I just wanted to bet even money, to finish 27th or better. Is the logic that you really don't know how these guys are going to do until that first round? Like almost anything can happen in the first round. So it's so unpredictable that is that because I'm trying to figure out, is the right way to handicap golf bet right the second, bet before the tournament starts? Or is it take a $50 or so, put it on a couple of guys to win the tournament as like long shots, and then bet real money on Sunday once I actually, is that the way to do it? You're nodding your head.
Yeah, that's recently what almost makes the most sense because a lot of these tournaments with how many guys there are, and this week especially, I mean, I guess there's two. You can see with the odds, there's two people. Rory McIlroy, who's like everybody that doesn't even know golf really probably knows his name just because of how famous he is. So it's like he's there, and then the next guy, Ludwig Aberg, is somebody who's like young. He's 23 years old, out of college. His odds are so good only because he went to Texas Tech out in Lubbock, Texas, which is close to where the tournament is, and he's been a really good college player and won in Texas a ton. So the course suits him and just makes sense. So like, but me, I'm like, none of those are again as good as what you were just talking about. I mean, taking $50 and going finding five guys and going and just putting $10 on them is probably best value at the start of the tournament. And then come Sunday, if obviously the best thing is if two, three, four of those guys are close to the top, you don't even have to sometimes bet anything. You just kind of enjoy what's going to happen. Maybe you get lucky, but it's so hard with all the talent nowadays. So, I mean, the two other names I know I mentioned Morikawa, Fitzpatrick. The other two that come straight off the top of my head, just with odds that are really good, and I think just course again suits them is Max Honma, who's definitely somebody that's won a lot on tour, hasn't won recently, but definitely won a lot. And then Jordan Spieth, being a Texas guy and wanting to get ready for the Masters. He's missed actually. What's crazy, he missed the cut the last two times in a row. So coming into this, it's definitely something where if he misses the cut this week, it'd be like going into the Masters next week. His ceiling is always the Masters. He plays his best golf there. So it's just something where it'd be really weird if he didn't make the cut and play well this week here because he's won the Valero Open too. He won here 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. So I mean, he's played well here. He's from Texas, so it's like the style of golf suits his game really well too.
And do you have thoughts as we transition into, so it's, what's it called? Just the Miami Open or?
Yeah, live Miami at Doral.
At Doral. Oh, okay. So
Doral.
there you go. Good. We'll save that for another podcast. Let's see. Great. Do you have thoughts on that? On that matchup? Jeez, I've got to figure out the right words on that. On
Yeah, I mean the live golf. I was gonna say is
that
probably
event.
it's more fun to bet on just because you're going to be able to watch it for free and it's unlimited. I mean, you get all coverage essentially with the way that it's set up, and the fields are smaller. So obviously, if you go and talk the tournament at the Valero, it's 125 players. Yeah, it's going to be hard to kind of sift through there and find the best value and who's going to be your confident pick versus now live golf is like want to say 48, 54, yeah, 54 golfers. So it's a much smaller field and there's no cut. So it's just a different setup, but there's a lot easier. I shouldn't say odds. It's just a lot easier to sometimes kind of have a more confident pick and who you're going to go with.
All right. So two things. One, it's the Miami Invitational. I'll get there. Promise. In this business first, God, there's people that bet like every kind of thing. So when COVID first happened, there was Korean baseball. And the best is when you see people that are like now experts on Korean baseball. And I'm like, you know what? No, anyway, people will sell anybody anything at any time. So go ahead, Miami Invitational. I know you might, want to dive into it a little bit more. What jumps out at you? John Rahm is plus 525 at what I'm looking at, and that's a significant favorite. Why don't you start with him and then tell me if there's anybody else that jumps out at you for this particular for the Miami Invitational.
Yeah. So I guess odds, yeah, odds favorite is John Rahm, then Joaquin Niemann. Those are probably right now two of the best golfers in the world. But certainly on Live Golf, and it's weird because the way the Masters is, it's an invite only. So not everybody on the Live Tour is going and playing the Masters next week. The only guys that are playing are either previous champions, which would be John Rahm, and they've given out three invitations, one of them actually being Joaquin Niemann, who's won twice on Live this year. So again, he's been playing some of the best golf in the world. So he got invited to go play at the Masters this week or next week. But for the tournament itself at Doral, Dustin Johnson, I think, is actually going through research because I totally forgot this was a course that they played almost 10-ish years, 2014, 2015. They played it on tour, PGA Tour a lot back then. So it wasn't a most recent thing that you could go back and see. But going back and looking at previous times, Dustin Johnson's actually won there. He's played well every time he didn't win there. It's just a long course. So the guys, if you were to like go off just the top of the odds favorites, that literally those four guys are the longest drivers basically on Live, minus maybe say one other person. But Bryson DeChambeau, Dustin Johnson, Joaquin Niemann, John Rahm are probably just drivers of the golf ball the longest on tour. So that's, I know why they're why you're seeing that, because come Sunday at Live, I guarantee the winners, there's going to be a correlation with that. It's going to be who drove the ball, obviously the best, and then putting is obviously the number one thing, but it's going to have a lot to do with them driving the ball
So
long.
who else is invited to the Masters? You gloss over that. That is completely fascinating to me. So John Rahm, Joaquin Niemann, and who else is invited? John
So on
Rahm won the Masters, so he's automatically invited. Who are the other
yep.
invites?
So the other invites are going to come from either winning another major in the last 5 years. So you get kind of an exemption if you win, say, the U.S. Open or the British Open. You get a 5-year exemption to play the Masters. So that would be Cameron Smith from Australia. He won the British Open at St. Andrews last year or 2 years ago. So he gets an exemption. Brooks Koepka, same thing. He's won previously in majors. And then Dustin Johnson, he's won the Masters. Sergio Garcia, Patrick Reed, and then I guess Phil Mickelson, Bubba Watson, and I think that's it. Charles Schwartzel. So not a big group of guys that are going from Live to go play the Masters next week. I just glossed over his name, but somebody that's going to be fun to do more research on and really watch him this week. I don't know if I'm going to bet on him, but Phil Mickelson right now is definitely somebody I've been seeing a lot of stuff on social media doing some weird shit. And just it's kind of what he was doing before he won at 50. He won the PGA Championship at Kiowa 2 years ago at 50. Doing some weird shit then, and he's doing the same thing now. And it's just the Masters is just his place. I'm like, he owns that place. He's won there like 3 times, I want to say. It's just somewhere last year he played really well there. So he's just, and it's he's somebody that is like the bottom, probably you would put and say odds on favorite. So, but it's just something where I'm curious to see what he does this week on Live, and going next week into the Masters podcast. You might hear me talk his name. You might hear me say, stay the hell away from him, but you never know.
And give me a couple places where you go to get your golf information. Who do you consider an expert? Whose opinion do you trust the most?
So opinion wise, I'd go everywhere and anywhere. I'd read everything. There's not one name that I follow, to be completely honest, or live and die by. I'd just go anywhere and everywhere, read everything. The thing that I do that's probably something that not a lot of people know is out there, but if you download the PGA Tour app, you can go right under the stats and you can literally go and search anybody's name and you can get all of their stats, and you can actually put them. Basically, there's an app on there you can use called Golf Calculator, and you can put guys like 3, 4 people next to each other. You can see all their stats at once, and you can really
Oh,
kind
cool.
of go through it, and that's really what I use. And I think that's honestly what all these guys, if you really go through the experts out there, that's
There's not a
probably the
podcast.
thing they're using.
So if there was only one person that you had to listen to though for 15, 20 minutes or a particular podcast, what would be a go-to?
Podcast,
Just
Colt Nost.
or somebody that likes to write, just any, if you could recommend somebody.
Colt Nost. He does a podcast with another gentleman, Smiley Kaufman, but they both they're CBS broadcasters. Like Colt Nost is like the on course guy. So he's got always a funny. He's just got good stories, but he's got a good perspective. He's a former player, so he has kind of that knowledge of former player, former winner. And same thing, he walks with the guys week in and week out, so he's always got good ins and outs and talks about all that stuff too. So,
Sweet.
so
And
he's
you
definitely it's fun to listen to and follow.
regardless of whether or not you're on here giving out advice and talking about it, you just really enjoy watching. Would you say, like, out of this Valero Open, like what percentage are you watching? Like, are you watching Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday? Do you spend a ton of time after they're finished looking at the stats? Like, give me a little bit of a rundown of how you consume golf.
So tomorrow will be like 100%. That'll be something where like I'll have ESPN Plus starts at like 8 o'clock in the morning, I think, with like the marquee groups and all that stuff. So that's like that'll be on 24/7 basically all day tomorrow. I'll watch it. And then weather wise, that's what I was gonna say this week is like the weather going into this week, it looks awesome for basically tomorrow. Like tomorrow is gonna be absolutely scoring frenzy just with weather being perfect. And then the wind, I know Friday is what's going to be interesting. So the biggest thing with golf, the way it works is say if you're going out in the morning tomorrow, you're going to play in the afternoon on Friday. If you play in the afternoon on Thursday tomorrow, you're going to go out in the morning on Friday. So they
And
talk about that
Saturday,
all the time. And then Saturday it gets reset. After the cut, you get basically the based on where you are on the leaderboard. If you're at the bottom, you're going to go out first. The leaders go out last.
gotcha.
So it's a big deal, kind of Thursday, Friday. If there is bad weather, if you're getting the right kind of break in that regard, which the guys I mentioned kind of have that where they're going out. I would almost look at people that are going out late on Thursday, and then early on Friday to avoid the wind, and they're going to get better weather in the morning. So,
Well,
and that's
full
always a correlation they talk about. Just seeing the leaderboard at the end of on Sunday where people are, they're like, oh yeah, they went out such and such time and they had the better weather. So,
Right.
like
It's
that.
almost like Thursday and Friday, you can blame a little bit of the luck if you want, but by the time Sunday afternoon rolls around, the best golfer that weekend found a way to win. So it's awesome listening to you talk about it. I'm gonna try to get myself more immersed. It probably would hurt me to go to a driving range. It's ironic because I think I Googled it when I first moved here to Athens, but I'm like less than an hour. I think it's about 55 minutes to the Masters to Augusta. Um, so I'm not planning on going. I don't think I don't know how that works as far as getting a ticket, but it is interesting that I'm really close. And I believe the University of Georgia has their. You probably know better than me, but I think the course down here either was a part of the PGA Tour at some point or it is. But it's a really nice course down here. So maybe the more I play, I'll be able to contribute as the summer goes along. But Colin, this was great. I'm going to let you roll here in a couple minutes, get everything out to everybody. You'll put in writing basically what we talked about with some actual concrete. Can't believe I actually said that. That's really funny. I was going to say like some actual. Oh God, that is really funny. Anyway, you're gonna put down your actual thoughts, put them, wow, and your predictions for the whole tournament. However many bets you have, and then on Sunday morning we'll hop back on here, and I think you'll obviously have more confidence on some bets for Sunday. So we'll get all that out to everybody. And last thing I wanted to say, as far as baseball is concerned, because I'm recording this, it's about 5 minutes to 12. It's a ton of afternoon games, a lot going on. And this is also the second time, yesterday was probably for some pitchers, and then today for obviously Corbin Burns, if the Orioles game happens, be the second time you're seeing these starting pitchers. My rule of thumb for betting on baseball always was like, give me 5 starts. Like, obviously, we know some of the elite pitchers, But as you're trying to figure these guys out, watch them a couple times. My first instinct is I love this Kyle Harrison guy, the lefty for the Giants. They're at the Dodgers tonight. Good value. Obviously, if the Giants are going to pull it off, I think you can get plus 180, plus 190. You'll probably get closer to plus 200 as all the money flows into the Dodgers like it always does. So I like him. That's a guy I'm high on. But besides that, I still, if I'm going to give out a baseball game, it's going to be one that I feel really good about. So I don't have anything on that front. Working on the basketball, excited to do that. That'll obviously come to you guys in the next couple of days. And Colin, I will see you Sunday morning. Enjoy your weekend. Hope everybody has a great day. If you need anything or just whatever, send me a message, email me, or send me a text. I have the number and the email right there. And yeah, I think that's about it. So, all right, I'll let you go. Thank you, Colin, and hope everybody has a great day.